On today's podcast, we're going to talk about boundaries, what they are, how they impact you, and how to set and maintain them. Welcome to Lift Your Future, a podcast that teaches you coping skills through stories, methods, and proven techniques to improve relationships and outcomes in your personal and professional life. I'm Nicole Winkler, a licensed therapist and executive coach. On this podcast, we'll share relatable life experiences designed to help you grow. I will provide easy, practical ways to develop thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to impact your life, both personally and professionally. My goal is simple: to help you lift your future. Hello, and welcome to Lift Your Future podcast. Today, we are going to talk about boundaries and why they're important, who to set boundaries with, how to know if you have crossed a boundary, and how to communicate boundaries when you decide that you want to set them for yourself. So first and foremost, why are boundaries important? Well, boundaries are kind of like our little protective bubble, and that can be either physical, emotional, or mental. So we can set boundaries in lots of different ways, but it's really important for us to know kind of where we stand, and not only know where we stand, but communicate that to other people in our life, whether that be our family, our children, our spouses, or people that we work with. So an example would be my kids know when I'm on a phone call not to interrupt me. That's a boundary. And I've set that with them before my phone rings, before I'm on a phone call. That's a conversation that we've had. When mommy's on the phone, and don't interrupt me. And so they also still try to push the boundaries, and that's what people do, especially family. And so they'll come in with a sticky note written on it, like, "Mom, can I do this?" And then circle yes or no. And, they try to find other ways around that boundary, but they know all in all, if I'm on the phone with somebody, that not to bother me and not to interrupt me. So that's a boundary that I have with them, among many other ones, because they're children. And their job is to push their boundaries. One that comes to mind for me with my spouse, when we were dating and I wanted to argue and I wanted to, because I thought that was what relationships were back then. And he would say, when you calm down, give me a call back and we'll talk about this, which was him setting a boundary with me. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. And he's like, just call me back after you have time to process and calm down. I'm like, what? But we're supposed to be fighting right now. And it just really took all the wind out of my sails. And so I have learned over time too, how to have conversations with him, or when I'm really upset or frustrated, that's a boundary I have too. I just need time to process. And that's my boundary. Just leave me alone right now while I think through what happened, how I'm processing it, if it's rational or irrational, and how I want to come back and talk to you about it. Same thing with family members. Sometimes family members are the worst because, we're around them a lot and we know them, we grew up with them, and they think, okay, well, I don't really care how that person feels. I'm going to say this or do that anyway. An example, showing up at your house without being invited, or, hey, I was just stopping by. Like, no, today is not a good day. I don't want you to be here today. I need space. I need time. And so being able to have those conversations, like in my family, there's been many conversations with family members about, if you want to talk, we need to meet in a public place on a neutral ground, not at your place, not at my place, on neutral ground, and we can have this conversation. Or it's even sometimes gone as far to, if you want to go to counseling with me, we can go talk in a counselor's office and work through this together. But the same pattern of behavior keeps continuing here. And so I have to set a boundary here and say, we need to go talk to somebody else. We need a third party to help us through this. And that's okay. And that's healthy. So those are a few examples of how setting boundaries has worked in my life and really important. Another place that we don't necessarily think of to set boundaries is with friendships. So I have a friend who is always on time for everything. She's actually early for everything. And I envy that about her, because if it's a work event or school event or something like that, I'm on time. But if it's a social event, I'm generally 5 to 10 minutes late on average. And she knows this about me. And so there was a time where she was trying to say, please be on time. Please be on time. I'm going to be here at this time. And I showed up and I was 5 minutes late. She actually had left, and she sent me a text and said, "You were late again. And this is very, I take this to heart. And it's very disrespectful because I value my time a lot and I value your time. I would not do this to you. So I left. And I've not ever been late to meet her ever again since then. I've actually gotten a lot better about being on time with people. So that was a huge lesson for me with a boundary that she set with me. And I really appreciated that. But this also comes up at work. I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And I hear from people a lot of times, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know how to say no. Well, saying no to something is setting a boundary, and simply saying, I'm really overwhelmed right now. I can't take on another project, or I can't have another responsibility, or maybe we need to rewrite my job description so that it includes what you're asking me to do, all these extra things that you're asking me to do. And so with that, having those conversations, being upfront. I don't know. I've been at work before and had somebody catch me when I walk by their office. Hey, can you do this, 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 and this? And like, yes. And then I don't have the brain capacity to really remember all of it. So a good boundary that I set was, hey, I would love to look at that and think about it and get back to you. Can you send me an email about it with all the things that you'd like me to do? And then that's me, one, saying, I don't have the brain capacity to remember all these things that you asked me. Two, I didn't commit to it right away. I wanted it in writing so I can look it over, have time to think about it, not make a decision on the spot, and then I can come back to it and get back to them later so they know that I'm going to follow through and follow up with them. So how do you know when your boundaries have been crossed? You usually feel resentful, frustrated, angry, taken advantage of, kind of at a loss. I don't know what else to do, maybe overly stressed, worried. And that's when you know that your boundaries have been crossed, and you probably need to assess them and then set a boundary from there. And so how do you set your boundaries? I statements are awesome. I am feeling this way. I'm experiencing this. I want to check this out with you. Hey, I need some space here. That can be a physical boundary. I've seen you every day for the past 7 days. I need some space. I need a couple days off. Okay, what does that look like? How does that feel for you? It can be very uncomfortable to set boundaries. I have a friend who works in a family business, and she had to set boundaries with her dad because at Sunday dinner or Saturday just hanging out and watching football together as a family, the conversation would turn into work. It would be all about work. And she's like, okay, I am all yours. I am all in for work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. I'm yours. I want to talk about all things work. I'm 100% in. But on the weekends and outside of those hours, please just be my dad. I just need my dad during that time. And that's something that has to be reiterated over and over again because we have this pattern of behavior where we kind of cross boundaries. We don't know that we're doing it. Somebody brings it to our attention, and then we have to refocus that and say, hey, remember we had this conversation about it? Because a lot of times I get clients that come in and say, okay, I tried to set the boundary, but then it worked well for 3 days. And then the fourth day, they went right back to it. I got a call at 9:00 at night about a work thing. It's like, okay, well, that's a time to gently remind them, hey, this is important to me too, but right now it's not working hours for me. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow morning and then I'll address it. Send me an email and I'll look at it first thing in the morning. So we sometimes have to also reiterate those boundaries over and over again until they stick, because we're not used to that, or we're used to behaving in a certain way. And to change behavior, we have to first change our own behavior. So that's a way that you can do that. Now, when somebody sets a boundary with you, how do you respond to it, especially if you don't agree with it? Hey, I want to be there for you, but when my kids get home from school, that's my only time with them. So could you call me at 9:00 at night to talk about something instead of 5:00 when I'm trying to get dinner ready and doing all these other things? Well, that could hurt somebody's feelings. Oh, okay. You don't want to hear from me? No, I do. I absolutely want to hear from you, but I need to make sure that it fits into my life and that I have balance too. And I have time with my kids and my family before you call and dump your day on me. I want to hear about it, but here's my boundary around that. And so kind of facilitating that, allowing them to ask questions. And if they set a boundary with you, allowing yourself about 24 hours to think through that. Okay, come back to them and say, I want to make sure I understood this correctly. This is what you said. This is what you want. And then here are my questions about it. Then you get clarity, and it often strengthens the relationship that you have, whether that be with coworkers, employees, friends, or family. And so I want to remind you that boundaries are our guidelines. They're kind of our personal bubble, our protective space. Like, okay, if this hurts my feelings and you keep doing it, I'm going to let you know I'm not going to be able to continue having this relationship with you in this way if that continues to happen. And we protect ourselves using these guidelines for ourselves. And sometimes we don't even know that we need to set them for ourselves. It takes another person to say, sounds like there could be some boundaries that you could put in place here, which I do a lot with my clients, because oftentimes we want to blame the other person or look at the other person. It's their fault when really we're not the one really withholding and setting up our own boundaries to be safe for ourselves. So don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any other questions about boundaries, please reach out to me, Nicole at liftyourfuture.com.